eternal human epic. Edward Granville Brown, a lecturer in Persian at the University of Cambridge, wrote, "A reminder of that blood-stained field of Karbala, where the grandson of the Apostle of God fell, at length tortured by thirst and surrounded by the bodies of his murdered kinsmen, has been at any time since then sufficient to evoke, even in the most lukewarm and the heedless, the deepest emotion, the most frantic grief, and an exaltation of spirit before which pain, danger, and death shrink to unconsidered trifles." Ashura is an eternal event that embodies the finest example of sacrifice and nobility in all of human history. It is an event which still resonates today because it was a demand for reform in the world, a call to stimulate humankind emotionally and intellectually, a struggle to purify it, a quest to liberate it from tyranny. Before the day of Ashura. In the year 680 AD, upon the death of Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, his son Yazid was wrongfully crowned, becoming ruler of the Islamic world by force. Imam Hussain, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, refused to pay allegiance, declaring, "Yazid is an immoral man who drinks alcohol, is a killer of innocent people, a proponent of immorality. A man like me cannot pay allegiance to a man like him." When word of his defiance reached Yazid, he gave Imam Hussain a stark choice. He told him that he could either pledge his allegiance or be killed. It was a terrible choice, because with just a few words, Imam Hussain knew that he could have spared himself from the tyrant's wrath. But he remained defiant, holding honor to be a sacred duty, something more valuable even than his own life. Knowing that he was condemning himself, Hussain had only this to say: "The falsely appointed ruler has offered either to draw swords or face humiliation, and we will never submit to being humiliated." The deterioration of the situation in the Islamic nation, the rule of tyrants and the fall of the people into a deep state of absent conscience, moved the Imam to lead a process of reform and change, saying, "I have risen to ask for reform in the nation of my grandfather, the Prophet. I want to promote virtue and prevent vice." The Imam realized that to awaken the nation, a great saga was needed, one that embodied grandeur, heroism, giving, and sacrifice. He stirred the conscience of humanity with his words, "If you have no religion and are not afraid of a day where you would be judged, then at least be of free will in your life." He presented himself and his family as an offering to God and humanity, and announced his intention very clearly, so as not to be followed except by those who shared his goals, saying, "One who is willing to share our goals, die with us, and is prepared to meet God Almighty, then they shall come with us." Even as a young child, he had known that the day of his martyrdom was coming, but he did not fear it. The Prophet had told him that it would be a day of enlightenment, and he eagerly awaited it ever since, saying, "Those who follow us will be martyrs. Those who stay behind will not reach enlightenment." It is narrated in Mustadrak ala Asahihain that al-Fadl said, "I put Hussain in the Prophet's lap, and I glanced where I saw the Prophet's eyes pouring tears. So I said, 'O Prophet of God, may my father and mother be sacrificed for you?' 'What has befallen you?' he said. 'I was visited by Gabriel, and he informed me that my people will kill this son of mine.' So I said, 'This?' And he said, 'Yes,' and he gave me his red soil." The day of Ashura. Ashura falls on the 10th day of the month of Muharram, because that was the day when Hussain lost his life resisting Yazid. It happened in the year 61 AH on the battlefield at Karbala. On the banks of the river Euphrates, Imam Hussain was slaughtered unjustly in the cruelest, ugliest, and most terroristic way, along with 72 other people, including members of his family, his children, and his companions. This happened after a 3-day-long siege by the army of Yazid, designed to cut off their supply of water. An army that included more than 30,000 fighters. Through his selfless resistance and unswerving allegiance to Islam, Ashura became a byword for humanity, heroism, dignity, and self-sacrifice. After the day of Ashura. The story did not conclude on the day of Ashura, but continued with a great show of humiliation for those defeated. The surviving women and children of the household of the Prophet were captured and paraded on saddleless camels in caravans that crossed the nation from the province of Kufa, the modern-day city of Najaf, Iraq, up to Damascus and the Levant, and all through the main towns along the coast. Also, the severed heads of Imam Hussain and his companions were raised on long spears, a fate which was usually reserved for captured mercenaries and bandits, and which truly shows the depth of Yazid's contempt. The revolution of Hussein would not have succeeded without the role played by his sister Zainab, granddaughter of the Holy Prophet, who was one of the captives. She embraced the ideals of the revolution, reporting its aims and narrating the tragedies and torments of Ashura to the whole Muslim nation. On the day of Ashura, she reached her hands beneath the body of her beheaded brother Hussein, cast her gaze to the sky, and addressed Allah, saying, "O God, please accept this sacrifice from us." What about now? As if taking Zainab's word to heart, hundreds of millions of people have accepted Hussein's sacrifice. Muslims and non-Muslims alike from around the world have come together to mourn and commemorate the occasion of Ashura every year during the months of Muharram and Safar in the Arabic calendar. Sermons are given nightly, stories are retold, lessons are retaught, and people weep for the terrible sacrifices that the Imam and his family made. His example has endured for 14 centuries, and on each anniversary, people still pledge to the Imam to move forward in his footsteps and to always take a stand against evil and injustice. These ceremonies include a long list of rituals, some of them reportedly encouraged by the household of the Prophet, Ahlul Bayt, such as visiting the shrine of Imam Hussain, poetry readings, lectures and retellings of lessons learned. Other forms of remembrance do not have historical roots, but have been shaped by the traditions of each community as it found its own way of remembering Ashura. Some held marches, while others held cultural activities such as theatre and film. For others, it was practices like self-flagellation, tatbir, which have stirred debate and opposition in the Shiite community and have been banned by some Shia scholars. The Ashura period is not limited to 2 months, but extends throughout the year with visits to Imam Hussein's shrine, sermons, and crying over him in various religious and social events. Every time we visit the shrine of Imam Hussain, we recite, "Peace be upon you, O inheritor of Adam, elite of Allah. Peace be upon you, O inheritor of Noah, Allah's prophet. Peace be upon you, O inheritor of Abraham, the admirer of Allah. Peace be upon you, O inheritor of Moses, the one who spoke to Allah. Peace be upon you, O inheritor of Jesus, the Spirit of Allah. Peace be upon you, O inheritor of Muhammad, the one beloved to Allah." This ingrains in our being the knowledge that the path of Allah and the path of righteousness are identical journeys that are woven into history, connecting human beings to Allah. The revolutions of the prophets were revolutions against deviation from the line of Allah. They were uprisings against tyrants and darkness. And the revolution of Imam Hussain was no different. He sought to awaken the world before the day of judgment and create in the hearts of human beings a power to drive them forward towards reform.